Breaking the rat race, lessons from history. Throughout history, countless individuals have dared to break free from the relentless rat race, seeking fulfillment beyond mere survival or material gain. From ancient philosophers who valued wisdom over wealth, to visionaries like Leonardo da Vinci who pursued curiosity above convention, their stories remind us that true success often lies in following one's passion and purpose. By reflecting on their journeys, we learn that stepping off the treadmill can lead to innovation, happiness, and a lasting legacy beyond the ordinary. In 1845, Henry David Thoreau walked into the woods near Walden Pond with nothing but an axe, some borrowed tools, and a radical idea that would scandalize his neighbors. He was going to live deliberately. While his contemporaries scrambled up the ladder of industrial capitalism, working 16-hour days in Massachusetts textile mills, Thoreau was conducting the most subversive experiment of the 19th century, proving that the rat race wasn't inevitable, it was a choice. But here's what your history books didn't tell you. Thoreau wasn't the first to crack the code. Scattered throughout human history are rebels, philosophers, and entire civilizations that discovered the secret to escaping the endless cycle of work, consume, repeat. Their stories reveal a shocking truth. The rat race isn't ancient, it's artificial. And if history teaches us anything, it's that every cage eventually finds its key. The ancient art of enough, long before capitalism coined the term rat race, ancient civilizations grappled with remarkably similar challenges. In 4th century BCE Athens, while merchants obsessed over expanding trade routes and accumulating silver, a peculiar philosopher named Diogenes lived in a barrel and owned precisely nothing. When Alexander the Great, literally the most powerful man in the known world, approached him and offered to grant any wish, Diogenes simply replied, "Stand out of my sunlight." This wasn't eccentricity, it was revolution. Diogenes had discovered what modern psychologists now call hedonic adaptation, the tendency for increased wealth to provide diminishing returns on happiness. But unlike our contemporary understanding, his wasn't theoretical. He lived it daily in the most cosmopolitan city of the ancient world. The cynics weren't alone in their radical rejection of material accumulation. Across the Mediterranean, Epicurus was founding communities based on the revolutionary principle that happiness came not from having more, but from wanting less. His garden became a haven for those seeking escape from the endless cycle of desire and disappointment that characterized urban life in Hellenistic Greece. But perhaps the most sophisticated understanding of work-life balance came from an unexpected source: medieval monasteries. While popular imagination paints the Middle Ages as uniformly brutal, Benedictine monks had achieved something remarkable: a sustainable rhythm of labor, study, and contemplation that lasted over a millennium. Their motto, ora et labora, pray and work, embedded a profound insight. Work without meaning becomes suffering, but meaningful work becomes prayer. The Great Acceleration. The real plot twist in our story begins in 18th century England, in a place that would seem impossibly quaint today. Rural villages where craftsmen controlled their own schedules, took Monday off to recover from Sunday, they called it Saint Monday, and worked according to seasonal rhythms that had governed human labor for millennia. Then came the factories, and with them, something humanity had never experienced: the mechanization of time itself. Suddenly, the ancient rhythm of task-oriented work, working until the job was done, then resting, was replaced by time-disciplined labor. Workers were expected to arrive at dawn, work until dusk, 6 days a week, 52 weeks a year. The clock became the master, productivity the god, and anything that wasn't productive became laziness. The transformation was so violent that it required force. Early factory workers regularly disappeared, returning to seasonal agricultural work or traditional crafts. Mill owners had to implement fines, surveillance, and even company housing to trap workers in the new industrial rhythm. What we now consider normal working life was originally imposed at gunpoint. But here's where the story gets interesting. Even as the industrial machine seemed unstoppable, pockets of resistance emerged that would prophesy our modern struggles with work-life balance. The Forgotten Revolutionaries. In 1886, while America was obsessing over westward expansion and industrial growth, something remarkable happened in Chicago. Workers didn't just demand better wages. They demanded something revolutionary, an 8-hour workday. Their slogan, 8 hours for work, 8 hours for rest, 8 hours for what we will, was radical precisely because it suggested that human life had purposes beyond production. The Haymarket Affair, as it became known, ended in violence and failure. But the idea it represented, that work should serve life, not dominate it, spread like wildfire across the industrialized world. Within decades, the 8-hour day became standard across Europe and America, proving that even the most entrenched systems could be challenged and changed. Meanwhile, in the most unexpected corner of the world, a different kind of revolution was brewing. In early 20th century Russia, before Stalin's brutal collectivization, there existed brief experiments in communal living that prioritized collective well-being over individual accumulation. The kibbutz movement in Palestine took similar inspiration, creating communities where the rat race was replaced by shared purpose and mutual aid. These weren't utopian fantasies. They were practical responses to the dehumanizing effects of industrial capitalism. And they worked, at least for a time, providing their members with something our modern world struggles to achieve: a sense that life had meaning beyond the accumulation of wealth. The modern paradox, which brings us to our current moment, and the most intriguing plot twist of all. We've never been wealthier, yet we've never felt more trapped. The average American today has access to luxuries that would have made medieval kings weep with envy. Yet surveys consistently show rising rates of anxiety, depression, and what researchers call time poverty. The feeling that despite labor-saving devices, we have less time than ever before. History suggests why. We've confused standard of living with quality of life. The rat race promised that if we just ran fast enough, long enough, we'd eventually win. But as economists now acknowledge, beyond a certain threshold of material comfort, additional wealth provides diminishing returns on happiness. Exactly what Diogenes figured out 2,400 years ago. The most successful escapees throughout history didn't reject work entirely. They redefined it. Thoreau supported his Walden experiment by working as a surveyor and pencil maker, but only when he needed money, and only as much as necessary. Medieval craftsmen took pride in their work because they controlled both its pace and its purpose. Even early industrial cooperatives succeeded when workers had ownership and agency in their labor. The pattern is consistent across cultures and centuries. Humans thrive when work serves a larger purpose, when they have control over their time, and when community and contemplation balance productivity and accumulation. The secret hidden in plain sight. Here's the revelation that's been hiding in plain sight throughout this historical journey. The rat race isn't a natural law, it's a recent invention. For most of human history, the 40-hour work week would have seemed as absurd as it was unprecedented. Our ancestors lived by seasonal rhythms, task-oriented goals, and community obligations that left ample time for rest, relationships, and reflection. The Industrial Revolution didn't just change how we work, it changed how we think about time itself. It convinced us that efficiency was virtue, that productivity was purpose, and that stopping the wheel, even briefly, meant falling behind. But history's rebels knew better. Today's digital nomads, minimalist movements, and 4-day workweek experiments aren't revolutionary. They're archaeological, digging up wisdom that was buried under 2 centuries of industrial conditioning. They're rediscovering what Diogenes, Thoreau, and countless others knew. Freedom isn't about having more choices, it's about needing fewer things. The rat race will only end when we remember what we've always known, that life's deepest satisfactions come not from running faster, but from choosing more carefully where we run, why we run, and when we have the wisdom to stop and rest in the sunlight.